Hi, I'm Clare Jones. I'm a qualified occupational therapist and one of the directors at MediRecruit. Danielle Whedon is the other director and she's a physio by background. MediRecruit is a specialist allied health recruitment company that provides expert career advice for allied health professionals and recruits to roles throughout Australia, New Zealand and the UK. I've been working with allied health professionals in various stages of their careers for nearly 20 years, so I'm here to share some tips on writing a cover letter and a CV. When it comes to writing a cover letter and a CV, my key piece of advice is this. Think of a future employer sitting down to review a number of applications. It could be 5, it could be 20, or it could be 100. To maximise the effectiveness of your CV, I suggest you keep the layout very simple and the information concise so that the key points stand out and the document is easy to read. Starting with a cover letter. Most importantly, always include a cover letter. A cover letter indicates that you're committed to the application and that the role is of genuine interest. In my opinion, as a junior therapist, a cover letter should be no longer than 1 to 2 paragraphs in length. Your cover letter needs to be tailored to suit the specific role that you're applying for. You need to address the person that you're applying to, say the director of the department or the organisation or the hiring manager. You need to state the role that you're applying for and the organisation that the role is with. My advice is to also include something that's personal about you that gives a potential employer something to remember you by and something to remember your application by. So you might like to mention any relevant experience you have. Say you've worked as an allied health assistant or a disability support worker. Have you grown up in a regional part of Australia? Have you completed a clinical placement abroad? Or have you represented the country at an elite level in sport? Some people are lucky enough to have this in their cover letter and CV. So moving on to your CV. Your CV should be no longer than 2 to 3 pages long. Start with your contact details, name, address, email and phone number. Next, clearly state your qualification, where you obtained it and when you graduated or when you're due to graduate. Professional employment should be listed here after your qualification, or in the case of new grads, you list your clinical placements. Both should be listed in reverse chronological order. With regard to clinical placements, don't include too much detail here. A basic overview of key skills covered in each prac will suffice. However, if you've undertaken a clinical placement that relates to the role you're applying for, I suggest you include more information about this prac. So next you should include any non-professional employment or voluntary experience, especially if it's health related. If you've worked as a disability support worker or an allied health assistant or you've been a receptionist for a private practice, it's important that you not only list this experience but also provide specific details about these roles, such as who you worked with. Were you working with OTs, speechies, physios? What participants or clients were you working with? Children and their families or adults? Include their diagnosis and include the skills you acquired in the role. The point of including this information is to convey to a future employer the transferable skills that you'll bring to a role. Transferable skills include both clinical and generic or essential skills. What are generic or essential skills? These are skills that apply across a variety of jobs and life contexts and include time management, organisational skills, communication skills, problem solving, teamwork, leadership. Now, don't underestimate the importance of this section of your CV. It's this information that employers pay very close attention to in assessing what skills you'll bring to the role, and it's often this experience that sets candidates apart. Finally, you need to make mention of referees. A referee should ideally be a therapist who has supervised you. So a clinical placement supervisor is ideal. You also may be able to use someone from other employment, say if you've worked as a disability support worker or an allied health assistant, you could nominate a therapist from one of those roles to also act as a referee. It's really important that you gain permission from that person to act as your referee, that you keep them up to date with your applications, and that you let them know when they're going to be contacted and who they're going to be contacted by. It's also really important to remain polite, considerate and grateful to your referees because they have no obligation to act as your referee. At MediRecruit, we don't advise you to include the contact details of your referees on your CV. Just simply state references available on request. Should you proceed through the recruitment process to the reference checking stage, you can provide the details of your referees then. So key points to remember are keep your CV and your cover letter really concise and the formatting really simple. Good luck in interviewing for your first role as an OT. If you need any advice at all, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you.